This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we're talking about Korean tips versus regular tips and the differences between the two. They're both fantastic and they can both be used for different things. So we're going to talk about some of the different options and the comparable sizes between these kinds of tips. So I have both a 125 and, as you can see, the larger 127 here. So your comparable sizes in the Korean tips would be the 124, $125, and the 126, and you can see those all have a K after the number. These are made by Ateco, so they make sizes in those same numbers for the larger ones that are the fatter regular openings. So they usually put a K behind the number to differentiate between the two. So it's important if you're buying from manufacturers like Wilton or Ateco that also make those regular tips that you look to see if there's that K there, because that means you're buying these skinnier openings. Now, there's some other manufacturers as well, and we actually have some from GG Cake Craft. So think the lovely lady that gave us glossy buttercream. She actually has her own tips. And for the large ones, we have, see if I can get that number to show, just the 105, right? So she's got a different numbering system and it's not going to have the K's on it. So it's just important to note that there will be some differences in the numbers from different brands. And then we also have a 106 here. So this is going to be approximately the same size openings as your 125K and your 126K for that 105 and 106. And then we also have curved ones. So the 123 is a fat curved opening, right? So you can do petals that kind of cut or curve in or out depending on how you hold it. And there's also a smaller version of this that's available, a 61. And then over here, GG has a different numbering system for these. You can see we've got, they're those Korean style, they're much, much thinner. It's a nice, soft, subtle curve. And the numbers are different on these. So it's a 1061 and a 1062. And I like to think of these as kind of left and right. So for me, because I'm right-handed, that left one curves in on that side, and the 1062 curves in the other direction. So when I'm using these, I can use that 1062 because I like to pipe on the outside edge of my flowers and pull towards myself to pipe petals that curve in and are kind of concave. And I can use the 1061 to do them the other direction, so petals that are kind of convex and curve out. So this depends a little bit on handedness. Obviously, if you're a lefty, you can do the opposite. And some people actually like to pipe in the front and pull around the front. I prefer to pull around the back. That's a little bit of a personal preference. There's no right or wrong. You can do whatever works for you. But having the set of this too is a really, really nice feature because it allows you to do both, right? So no matter whether you're right-handed, left-handed, whether you pull from the back towards yourself or around the front, you're going to have what you need to make petals that both curve in and curve out. And then we also have smaller tips as well. So I pulled out a 104 with a standard opening, right? And a 101. And she also has some smaller tips, and I pulled out some similar ones. So this is their 101. And if we compare it, you can see because that opening is much thinner. There we go. It's actually much longer, so it's a longer tip. So there are some little subtle differences like that. And then she also has a 102, which is actually kind of similar in size, maybe just a little bit larger than that 104. So you can see any place I would want the length of a 104 petal, I can use one of these 102 from the GG Cake Craft. So There's a lot of things that are really similar in terms of size, especially with the larger ones, and some subtle differences between the other ones, like the curved ones, what's available, what's not, and also the small ones. So what we're going to do next is pull over a tray and demo it so you can see the difference between the stream of frosting that you're getting out of each of those. So we're going to do a quick demo on our tray just to give you a rough idea of what they're like. And I've got a number 125 and a 125K, both loaded up in bags with some pink buttercream. It's just simple buttercream, so it's not quite enough to hold this in shape if we're doing petals that are straight up and down, but you can do some fun stuff with it. And it's nice just to give us a little demo. So I'm just gonna do some little squiggly lines, right, and pipe some little petals. And then we'll show you what happens with our 125K. So we're just gonna kind of do the same kind of motion, and you can see it's a much, much thinner stream of frosting, and it's gonna give you a much more delicate ruffle. And the same thing happens with your petals. So we'll just hold this up so you can see. So you can see it's much fatter at the base. Those little ruffles that we piped are really going to stand up on their own, and the ridges are going to be nice and pronounced and separated. Since I'm using just a simple buttercream and it doesn't really hold up as well to these nice delicate petals, you can actually use that to your advantage to make really, really delicate, nice ruffles and do some really cool designs on the outside of cakes, especially with the smaller size Korean tips where you don't have as much kind of flop over to it. But you can see it makes really, really thin streams of frosting. So it's great for getting really delicate petals. And you can see the petals here, they have more bulk to the center. That's what's making them really, really stable and giving them that ability to stand up, even with buttercreams that don't have as much strength to them like this simple or American style does. And with that Korean tip, it has a much softer, more delicate feel to those petals. You can see those edges. They're really, really paper thin, and they're really beautiful. And because of the way the tip is shaped, it almost curls over on itself a little bit too, and it gives you a nice natural feel to those petals. So that's the reason why a lot of people are in love with them, me included. We're gonna pull over a flower nail and do a quick little demo of a flower so you can see that as well. So we've got our flower nail ready to go. I'm just gonna put a little buttercream on it, put on a little paper, and I'm gonna start with my 125K, and I'm just gonna pipe a flower. And I'm doing one with flat petals because I'm gonna also use that 125K. So it's not really something that with this buttercream I can do roses, but if you make things like bean paste buttercream, or that glossy buttercream, you can definitely use those Korean tips to do some really amazing and beautiful flowers, especially roses. So I'm just gonna pipe a little blossom with some flat petals. So nice and cute, just 5-petal blossom, really simple. Finish it off with a little center. And then I'm gonna grab another piece of paper and I'm gonna do the same one with the 125K. So same technique. Approximately same size, right, petals. And while this doesn't really show off the wide variety of really cool, awesome, amazing, and delicate things you can do with these tips, you can see how much less volume this has. It's a really nice illustration on that. This looks puffed up and kind of fat and a little more, I don't know, like simplistic, maybe a little, I don't know, maybe primitive and kind of basic. It reminds me of something I would do for maybe like a kid's birthday cake. If we want to make more adult stuff, you can see this is giving us really fine edges to those petals. It has less volume to it, and it gives us some nice, beautiful little ruffles and wrinkles in it that help make your flowers look more natural. So that's going to be the main difference between using these types of tips. You're really using the same kinds of methods, you're holding your bags the same way. this, you can get away with doing some things, like there's some flowers that lay flat that we do with a simpler American buttercream with these Korean tips, like anemones, poppies, and other things of that nature. I can do things like a little buttercream scabieusis and some stuff like zinnias and daisies, and they come out really nice. If I want to go past that and do things like roses, especially things like gardenias or anything where you really need those petals to stand apart from each other and really have some strength to them, that's where you want to go into things like bean paste buttercream, or that glossy buttercream, because it'll have the strength to really hold up and give you some amazing, beautiful results. Then we're going to talk a little bit about where you can get these types of tips. So let's talk about where you can buy tips. Obviously, these regular ones, they're pretty much available widely. You can go to your local craft store, you can buy them online from a bunch of different retailers, and there's a huge selection out there of these kind of tips, and they are great for making flowers, especially if you're just getting into it, you're new to making different types of buttercream, and maybe yet are only working with things like a simple buttercream. So if you're thinking about getting into working with some of the Korean tips, and you want to dip your toe into the water, but you're not ready to buy a huge set yet, Ateco makes this set of 3. It's the 124K, 125K, and 126K, and it's pretty widely available online from a variety of different retailers, and you can definitely get these on Amazon. It's easy purchase, it's not that costly, and it's a nice introduction. If you're really looking for some great quality tips, and you're looking to really have a nice diverse variety, especially sizes and some unique shapes, the ones from GG Craft, I have to say, are really great. They have some thoughtful details to them. The tips that they manufacture all have this slight little curved bulge at the bottom that really help keep you from rocketing your tip out the end of the bag, which is lovely, and it's a nice, well thought out detail. I've had these for, I think, over a year now, and they're in really great shape. They're holding up well, and I'm getting a lot of use out of them. So I have to say they're well made, they're well thought out, and they're just a joy to use. I love using them to make flowers. They have the ones you see here, plus more variety available and some unique ones. They actually have a really nice U-shaped tip that's larger than I think any other one I've ever found, and it's great for making dahlias and some other things. So she's got some great different sets available, and I've seen some places too where you can buy these tips individually, and you can go directly to her site, GG Cake Craft, or you can buy them at a few other retailers. It might take a little looking. Every once in a while I found these on Amazon, but it's not regular, so worth a check there. Another place that I found that sells them is Blooms by June, especially if you're in the States and you don't want to order something, say, directly from Korea because you're looking to keep down shipping costs. But any of those Korean tips you find out there are going to open up a nice new world of flowers and designs and really some delicate, kind of more realistic piped buttercream flowers. So they're a lot of fun to use, and we definitely recommend at least investing in a small set of them just so you have them to play around with and do some really fun details on your cakes, whether that's flowers, ruffles, or whatever else you can dream up. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.